The silence of space was torn apart by fire. Flashes of plasma ripped across the void, illuminating jagged wreckage and drifting bodies where the Archon Dominion fleet had once stood unchallenged. Through the debris, a single warship pushed forward, scarred, smoking but unbroken. The UNS Dauntless was no sleek alien vessel. Its hull looked like hammered steel, angular and brutal, with heavy armor plating scorched black. Half its external lights were dead, a quarter of its railgun silent, yet the ship still advanced like a predator tasting blood. On the bridge, alarms screamed and red emergency lights painted the crew in sharp crimson. Commander Adrian Wolf stood in the center, boots planted as though the deck itself depended on his balance. A faint cut bled across his temple, but his voice was steady. Status report. Main coil guns at 60% capacity, but targeting is stable. Lieutenant Navarro called out from weapons control. Smoke curled around her station as she slapped the panel back into place. Enemy fleet's gone, sir. Not retreating, destroyed. Engineering? Wolf asked without turning. Drive cores running hot, but holding, replied Chief Engineer Dre. I wouldn't push her past sublight for long, though. She's not happy. Wolf finally allowed himself a thin smile. Neither am I. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Commander Harlan Rhodes, swiveled from the sensor console, grinning despite the chaos. We just gutted a fleet 3 times our size. You know the Archons aren't going to take that lightly. They underestimated us, Wolf said. His tone was calm, but his eyes hardened as he surveyed the damage on the bridge. Panels were cracked, wires hung like scorched vines, and the air smelled of ozone and burned metal. They won't make that mistake again. The Dauntless had been dispatched weeks earlier to patrol the contested border near Archon-controlled space. First contact with the Dominion had been tense but diplomatic. The Archons, tall, crystalline-skinned beings with centuries of warfare behind them, had demanded humanity withdraw from their star systems. Earth had refused. No one expected the Archons to open fire first. The ambush came without warning. 3 Dominion cruisers had appeared from folded space, flanking the Dauntless before Wolf's crew even finished their sensor sweep. Plasma lances and particle cannons had raked their shields. The initial hit tore a hole through Deck 9, killing 20 crew, but humans adapted fast. Wolf ordered counterfire while feigning a retreat, drawing the Archons into the range of the Dauntless graviton mines. A crude but devastating weapon. When the first mine collapsed into a miniature singularity, the leading Archon cruiser vanished in a flare of light. The others hesitated. That hesitation cost them everything. Sir, we're picking up residual Archon transmissions, Rhodes said, pulling Wolf from his thoughts. Scrambled, but I think they were calling for reinforcements. Intercept and decode them, Wolf ordered. Navarro, ready defensive protocols. I don't want to be caught bleeding out in their backyard. Aye, sir. As the crew scrambled, Wolf stepped toward the main viewport. The field beyond was a graveyard of twisted alien metal, still glowing where oxygen reserves burned. He'd seen death before, but the sight of alien ships, so pristine moment ago, drifting in ruin struck something deeper. These weren't just enemies. They were the beginning of something much larger. Archon Dominion flagship, hours later. Lord Kara VYNN listened in silence as the distorted voice of his fleet commander ended with static. His clawed hands curled against the armrest of his throne-like chair. Around him, the command chamber glowed with cold blue light, reflecting off his crystalline skin. 1 human warship, he murmured. Destroyed an entire strike group? Yes, my lord, said Captain Zarek, bowing low. Their vessels are strange. Crude but resilient. They fight like they are built to die, yet refuse to. VYNN's amber eyes narrowed. Then they are not vessels. They are weapons, and weapons must be broken. Back on the Dauntless. By the time Wolf returned to his command chair, the tension on the bridge was palpable. Rhodes was hunched over a console, reading the decrypted Archon message with a grim expression. They're calling this an act of war, Rhodes said. They fired first. Navarro snapped. Doesn't matter, Wolf said quietly. What matters is what happens next. The room fell silent. Everyone knew what next meant. Later, in the tactical briefing room, Wolf gathered his senior officers. A hollow display showed their current position, a glowing dot on the edge of Archon territory. Several red markers pulsed ominously deeper inside the Dominion space. Possible fleet movements. "We've confirmed the Archons are mobilizing," Wolf said. This wasn't just a skirmish. They're preparing for a larger strike, maybe even an invasion. "And Earth Command?" Navarro asked. "Orders are to hold the line," Wolf replied, his voice clipped. "They'll send reinforcements, but we're the only thing between the Archons and the colonies in the Kepler belt. We can't afford to lose ground." Engineer Dre crossed his arms. "With respect, Commander, the Dauntless isn't built to fight alone. We barely survived today. We need repairs." Wolf met his gaze. "And if we leave, the Archons will burn everything behind us. We can't run. We fight smart or we don't fight at all." That night, if time and space could be called night, Wolf stood alone on the observation deck. The stars stretched in cold silence, and the wreckage of the battle floated like a grim constellation. He thought of the warning Earth Command had given before they launched. "The Archons are old, powerful, and merciless. Don't provoke them." Yet here they were, with blood already spilled. Wolf clenched his fists. Then let them come. The Dauntless hung in orbit over a dead moon, a silent sentinel catching the pale light of a distant sun. The ship looked like it crawled out of a war it should not have survived, its armor pitted and scorched, sections of hull patched with emergency plating. Yet, inside, the crew moved with renewed purpose. Every deck hummed with activity. Engineers and gunners working shoulder to shoulder, determined to keep their vessel ready for whatever the Archon sent next. Commander Adrian Wolf stood on the observation walkway above the hangar bay, watching sparks rain as engineers welded fresh armor onto the ship's flank. The Dauntless was more than steel and reactors. It was defiance forged into shape. The crew believed in her, and Wolf knew that belief would keep them alive longer than any shield generator. Below, Chief Engineer Dre emerged from a swarm of maintenance drones, his coveralls smeared with coolant stains. "She'll fly," Dre called up, "but don't ask me to promise she'll like it. The main drive's cracked 3 coolant channels. I've rerouted, but push her too hard and you'll melt the core." Wolf descended the metal staircase to meet him. "We don't need her to like it. We just need her to hold." Dre smirked. "You talk like she's alive." "She is," Wolf replied, glancing around the hangar. "So long as they keep believing she is." In the Tactical Command Center, Lieutenant Navarro was hunched over a holographic projection of their surrounding sector. Bright dots marked human outposts. Small colonies, trade hubs, mining stations, and around them glimmered red threat markers where Archon patrols had been detected. "They're testing us," Navarro said as Wolf entered. "Archon scouts are skirting our borders but not engaging. Feels like they're mapping weaknesses." "They'll find none," Wolf answered, though his voice was more iron than certainty. "What's our repair estimate?" 36 hours for essential systems," she said. "Weapons are functional but strained. Shields are at 80%. 80 will have to do." The briefing room filled with the senior officers, Navarro, Dre Rhodes, and a handful of department heads. Wolf paced in front of the table, his hands clasped behind his back. "They know we're here. They know we're alone. We need to make them think we're not easy prey," Wolf began. "Which means what?" Rhodes asked, leaning forward. "We can't outrun them, and we sure as hell can't fight every ship they throw at us." "We don't fight their fleet," Wolf said. "We fight their perception." He tapped the control on the table, and the hologram shifted, highlighting an Archon supply convoy moving through a Nebula 3 light years away. "Hit them where they don't expect it. Show them we can strike deeper and harder than they think. Fear will slow them down." Dre frowned. "You want to take a half-crippled warship into hostile space to raid their logistics?" "Yes," Wolf said simply. "If they believe humanity is weak, they'll come at us with everything. If we bleed them first, they'll hesitate. That hesitation could save lives." Later, as the plan solidified, Wolf walked the bridge. Crew members were silent but purposeful. They knew what was coming. He stopped beside Rhodes at the helm. "Set a course for the Caris Nebula. Quiet run. We don't want to advertise we're coming." Rhodes arched an eyebrow. Going to scare the neighbors? Just enough to make them rethink knocking on our door. Archon Dominion, War Council Chamber. Lord Kareth VYNN stood among the high strategists of the Dominion. The chamber was circular, its walls glowing with soft light that reflected off the crystalline forms of the Archons present. Reports confirmed that the human vessel, the Dauntless, survived your ambush, one strategist said, her voice cold and resonant. VYNN's jaw tightened. It was a miscalculation. Their ship is primitive, but its endurance is unsettling. Then crush it, another said. VYNN shook his head slowly. No, not yet. We will lure them out, break their spirit before we break their hull. Back on the Dauntless, the ship's engines rumbled as it slid from its hiding place, a titan moving through shadow. The crew was tense but not afraid. Fear had been burned out of them during the ambush. What remained was steel. Navarro monitored the tactical board, eyes sharp, entering the Caris Nebula. Long-range sensors are nearly blind in here. Good, Wolf said, settling into the command chair. They won't see us coming either. The nebula wrapped the ship in ghostly light, colors shifting from violet to crimson as ion storms danced across its edges. It was both beautiful and deadly. Contact, Rhodes called. Archon convoy, 5 ships. 2 escorts, 3 freighters. Bring us in slow, Wolf said. Navarro, target the escorts. I want them out before they know what hit them. The first strike was silent. A pair of railgun slugs ripping through the void, shattering one escort ship's shields before the Archons could react. Explosions bloomed like silent flowers, fragments of crystal and alloy scattering across the nebula. Second escort returning fire. Navarro shouted, shields holding. Put them down, Wolf ordered. The Dauntless surged forward, coil guns hammering with relentless precision. The Archon escort disintegrated under barrage. The freighters, panicked and unarmed, scattered like prey animals. Do we finish them? Rhodes asked. No, Wolf said after a beat. Let them run. Let them tell their masters what we did. When the battle was over, silence fell across the bridge. The crew stared at the glowing wreckage drifting in the nebula, knowing this was more than a victory. It was a message. They'll come harder now, Navarro said quietly. Good, Wolf replied. We'll be ready. The nebula's swirling colors faded into blackness of open space, leaving the Dauntless exposed once more. The ship glided like a silent blade, its engines muffled to minimal output. Every system hummed at low power, giving the vessel the stealth of a predator stalking prey. Commander Adrian Wolf stood over the central hollow display, its pale blue light reflecting off the lines of fatigue etched on his face. The Archon transmission from Lord VYNN replayed in his mind, a challenge, a warning, and a promise. Wolf had no illusions about what was coming. We have a narrow window, Lieutenant Navarro said from the weapons console, breaking the silence. Our raid rattled them, but they'll regroup quickly. If we're going to get intel, it has to be now. Wolf nodded. Rhodes, set a course for the Archon frontier. Minimum emissions. I want to know what they're building before it's pointed at our throats. Rhodes glanced back from the helm. Aye, sir. But you realize this is a one-way trip, if they catch us out there. Then we make sure they don't, Wolf replied, his voice steady. The Dauntless slid into the edge of Archon territory, where sensor pings picked up faint signals, encrypted traffic, heavy movement of supply ships, and faint graviton anomalies. Navarro ran diagnostics, her eyes narrowing as the data streamed in. They're gathering ships, she reported. Not just patrols. This looks like preparation for something big. Define big, Wolf said, leaning closer to projection. She hesitated. A fleet-scale mobilization, maybe larger. Archon Dominion, forward war dock, Lord Kareth VYNN, observed the construction of their newest weapon from the command balcony of the war dock. Below him, a colossal structure hung in space, a skeletal sphere of black alloy and glowing energy conduits. Even unfinished, it radiated menace. The Sun Cleaver will be operational within weeks, an aide reported, its crystalline voice echoing through the chamber. One shot could vaporize a planet or shatter any vessel that dares challenge it. VYNN's expression sharpened. Then humanity will learn fear the moment it fires. I want the human ship Dauntless lured into range. No survivors. Back on the Dauntless. The briefing room was tense. Wolf stood with Navarro, Rhodes, and Chief Engineer Dre as they reviewed intercepted data. A series of grainy images, captured from long-range surveillance drones, rotated in the hollow display. The alien structure loomed large, vast, circular, bristling with weapons ports. That, Dre said, pointing to projection, isn't a ship. It's a fortress. Look at the energy spikes on these scans. Whatever they're charging, it's not just shields. Superweapon, Navarro muttered, the Archons are building a planet killer. Wolf's jaw tightened. Then we find a way to stop it before it's finished. Rhodes raised a brow. How exactly do you suggest we do that with one battered warship? Wolf didn't answer immediately. He stared at the hollow image, mind racing. First, we get close enough to learn how it works. Then we find its weakness. The mission was set. They would infiltrate deeper into Dominion space, using debris fields and asteroid belts as cover. The Dauntless, despite its scars, moved like a wolf through the darkness. But the Archons had already set their trap. Multiple contacts on long-range sensors. Navarro said sharply from her station. Fast-moving signatures. They're cutting off our path. How many? Wolf asked. 6. No, 7 ships. Escorts. Maybe a cruiser leading them. Too many to fight head-on, Rhodes added. Wolf's mind snapped to action. We use the asteroid field. Thread the ship through tight formations. Make them chase us. Navarro, prepare decoys. Dre, give me every ounce of power you can spare from maneuvering thrusters. Dre grimaced. You'll rip the stabilizers apart if I push the drives like that. Then patch them back together later. Wolf said. The chase began. The Dauntless dove into the asteroid belt, weaving between massive chunks of rock tumbling through the void. The Archons followed, their sleek ships slicing through space with surgical precision. Plasma fire streaked past, carving molten scars into the drifting stones. Decoys deployed. Navarro called. Explosive drones scattered in all directions, detonating to create bursts of false sensor readings. 3 ships have broken off pursuit, Rhodes said, his fingers flying over the helm controls. For still on us. The bridge shook as a plasma blast grazed their aft shields. Dre's voice crackled over the comms. Shields at 60%. If you want to keep your skin, stop letting them hit us. Noted, Wolf muttered. Rhodes, pull us closer to that spinning mass. We'll use its shadow to break their line of sight. The maneuver was brutal. The Dauntless scraped past an asteroid the size of a city block, its armor screaming under the friction of rock dust and debris. The ship spun, pivoting sharply, and vanished behind the asteroid's bulk. All power to forward weapons, Wolf ordered. As the first Archon ship rounded the asteroid, the Dauntless unleashed a full broadside. Railgun slugs tore through the alien cruiser's shields, ripping it apart in a single devastating volley. 3 left, Navarro announced. Make them think we're done running, Wolf said. The battle raged in the asteroid belt, but the humans' unpredictability turned the tide. By the time the last Archon escort broke off, the Dauntless was battered, scorched, and barely holding together. Damage report, Wolf said, voice tight. Port side armor's gone, Dre said over comms. We've lost 1/3 of our weapon ports and half our maneuvering thrusters. She's limping, but she's alive. Alive is enough, Wolf said. Later, in the quiet command room, Wolf reviewed the fragmented data they'd gathered during the chase. The scans of the Sun Cleaver were incomplete, but one thing was certain. It was nearly operational. Navarro studied the same data. Her jaw set. If that thing fires, nothing in our fleet will stop it. Earth won't even have time to mount a defense. Wolf's eyes were cold as steel. Then we don't wait for it to fire. We take the fight to them. The Dauntless drifted in the shadow of a cold, fractured moon, its hull patched but far from whole. The crew moved with the weary determination of people who knew every breath could be their last, yet none slowed their pace. Each strike, each weld, each calibration mattered now. Commander Adrian Wolf stood in the briefing room, staring at the hologram of the Sun Cleaver. The alien construct rotated slowly, an immense sphere laced with pulsating energy conduits that glowed like veins of fire. Even in grainy scans, it radiated destruction. Admiral Kaido's final words still rang in his mind. Neutralize it by any means necessary. Any means, Wolf muttered under his breath. That's easy to say from Earth. The door slid open. Lieutenant Commander Rhodes entered, carrying a data tablet. His expression was taut, but his voice held its usual edge of sarcasm. I've run the numbers, and if you're planning to ram this ship into that monster, you might want to leave a note for the historians. You'll go down as the most stubborn commander in human history. Wolf didn't look up. History doesn't matter if no one survives to read it. Rhodes sighed and set the tablet down. I'm with you, you know that. But the crew deserves to know what we're walking into. They followed you through hell. This might be worse. They'll know, Wolf said, finally meeting his gaze. We'll tell them tonight. The briefing was held in the main hangar, where the hum of maintenance work filled the air. Over 200 crew members stood in loose formation. Some would sit still on their faces, others with bandaged hands from rushed repairs. Wolf stepped onto a raised platform, his dark uniform streaked with oil stains, his expression unwavering. You've all seen the scans, he began, voice carrying over the noise. The Sun Cleaver isn't just a threat. It's a promise. The Archons mean to wipe out our colonies, maybe even Earth itself. We're the only ship close enough to stop it before it's operational. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Wolf let them settle before continuing. We don't have reinforcements. We don't have backup. We have one ship, one crew, and one chance. If we succeed, humanity lives another day. If we fail, he paused, the weight of the moment pressing on him. There won't be a second chance. A young technician raised his voice. Sir, are you saying this is a suicide mission? Wolf's jaw tightened. I'm saying this is a fight where victory might cost us everything. But I'll take that over waiting for someone else to die in our place. Silence fell. Then Navarro stepped forward, voice firm. You heard him. We've beaten worse odds already. We'll finish this. A murmur of agreement rose, building into a unified cheer. Wolf allowed a rare smile. Later, in the observation deck, Wolf found Navarro alone, watching the stars. Still thinking about the odds? He asked. She didn't look away from the viewport. Always. But that's not what scares me. What does? That I might not get to see what comes after. We fight and win, but we won't be there to see the sunrise over Earth again. Wolf stood beside her. None of us signed up for easy endings. We fight so someone else can see that sunrise. She glanced at him, a faint smirk tugging at her lips. You really believe that? Every damn day, he said. Archon Dominion, Command Chamber. Lord Care of VYNN watched the final assembly of the Sun Cleaver through a panoramic viewport. The structure was complete now, its central core glowing with white-hot energy that pulsed like a beating heart. Soon, he said to his captains, the humans will learn the difference between endurance and futility. Their Dauntless is a nuisance, nothing more. Yet it destroyed 2 of our fleets. One captain noted cautiously. VYNN's crystalline features hardened. Then I will destroy it myself. Prepare the fleet. Let no human ship leave the system alive. Back on the Dauntless, the approach to Archon territory was a study in silence and tension. The crew moved with quiet precision. Every station occupied. Every eye on its displays. Stealth systems engaged. Rhodes reported. We're running dark. No active scans. Navarro's fingers danced over the tactical board. Long-range sensors show multiple Archon patrols. We'll have to thread through their net. Then let's start threading, Wolf said. The ship slipped through the void like a ghost, its engines running on minimal power. Wolf stood on the bridge, hands clasped behind his back, his gaze fixed on the forward viewport. Remember, he said, the Dauntless was built to fight, not hide. But if we can get close before they see us, we might have a chance. The closer they got, the more oppressive the silence became. The Sun Cleaver came into view at last, an immense ringed structure floating above a dark gas giant, its glowing energy core framed by a lattice of armor plating. It was both beautiful and terrifying, a monument to destruction. Target confirmed, Navarro said softly, as though speaking too loud might draw its attention. Rhodes let out a low whistle. That thing makes us look like a toy. Size doesn't matter, Wolf said. What matters is where you hit it. In the strategy room, Wolf and his officers huddled over the scans they'd managed to capture. There, Dre pointed at a section near the outer lattice. Those conduits channel the main energy flow to the core. If we sever them, the weapon might overload. Might, Navarro echoed. What if it doesn't? Then we improvise, Wolf said. And by improvise you mean? Rhodes asked. We put the Dauntless between that weapon and Earth, no matter what it takes. That night, Wolf walked the quiet corridors of his ship. The hum of machinery and distant chatter of the crew blended into a low, steady rhythm. He stopped by the memorial wall on Deck 2, where the names of those lost in the last battle had been etched into a metal plate. Your sacrifice won't be wasted, he whispered. The Dauntless emerged from the shadow of a drifting asteroid, its scarred hull catching the faint light of the Archon home star. Ahead, the Sun Cleaver dominated the void. It was a colossus, an artificial ring the size of a small moon, its central core glowing like a captive star. Around it, Archon warships formed a perfect defensive perimeter, their crystalline hulls gleaming with cold precision. Commander Adrian Wolf stood on the bridge, gaze locked on the weapon that threatened everything he swore to protect. His crew waited in silence, the weight of their mission pressing on every breath. Navarro, Wolf said, voice steady. Status on weapons? All coil guns loaded, torpedo bays primed. Railguns at full power, she replied, her tone clipped but fierce. Rhodes, can you thread us through their line? Rhodes cracked his knuckles. Through, over, under, just point me where you want to fire to start. Wolf allowed a ghost of smile. Straight at their heart. Archon Dominion, command vessel. Lord Kareth VYNN stood at the prow of his flagship, his golden eyes fixed on a human warship. There it is, he murmured. The insect that refuses to die. Orders, my lord, his captain asked. Crush it. Let their defiance end here. Back on the Dauntless. Multiple hostiles moving to intercept. Navarro announced as a tactical display lit with red markers. At least 10 ships. 2 cruisers, heavy escorts. Dre, I need every drop of power you can wring from those engines, Wolf said. Already burning the backups. Dre replied over comms. She'll hold, if you don't get her killed first. Helm, Wolf ordered. Full burn. Let's show them why they should have stayed afraid. The Dauntless roared forward, its thrusters glowing white-hot. The first Archon volley cut across the void, a barrage of plasma fire that lit the dark like lightning. Shields flared. Heat warning screamed. Shields at 70%, Navarro reported. Return fire, Wolf snapped. The Dauntless answered with a brutal salvo. Railgun slugs, traveling at hypersonic velocity, punched through an escort's crystalline hull, scattering shards into space. A second volley crippled another ship before its shields could realign. They're tightening formation, Rhodes called out. Then we tear a hole through it, Wolf said. The battle unfolded like a storm. The Dauntless weaved through the enemy line, bleeding but unyielding. Sparks rained from ruptured panels. Crews shouted orders over the roar of failing systems. Starboard coil gun offline. Navarro yelled, compensate with the port array. Wolf barked back, don't stop firing. A sudden blast rocked the ship, throwing Wolf against a rail. Blood ran from a fresh cut on his brow. Report. Direct hit to Deck 7. Dre's voice growled through static. We're venting atmosphere, but I've sealed the breach. Finally, a gap opened in the Archon formation. Punches through, Rhodes, Wolf ordered. The Dauntless surged into open space, battered but alive. Ahead loomed the Sun Cleaver, its energy core pulsing with violent light. Navarro, Wolf said, voice low but burning with resolve. Target those energy conduits Dre identified. Everything we've got. Locked, she replied. Fire. Torpedoes streaked through the void, followed by railgun fire. Explosions erupted along the Sun Cleaver's outer ring. A cascade of sparks and debris flared as one of the conduits fractured. They're responding, Navarro warned. Enemy fleet moving to block us again. And the Sun Cleaver, it's charging. A low hum filled the comms as a massive weapon powered up, its core glowing brighter, a star about to ignite. How long? Wolf asked. Minutes, maybe less. In that moment, Wolf made his decision. Prepare for a collision course. Rhodes froze. Sir, you can't mean... We don't have time to take it apart piece by piece, Wolf said. His voice was iron. We'll drive the Dauntless straight into that core. If we rupture it, the chain reaction should take the whole thing with us. Navarro turned sharply. That's a one-way trip. Yes, Wolf said. And I'm not asking anyone to volunteer. I'll pilot her myself. You all get to the escape pods. No way in hell. Rhodes snapped. You're not going alone. Wolf's eyes hardened. That's an order. For a moment, no one moved. Then Navarro stood. Sir, with all due respect, shove that order. We're not abandoning ship. Not when we've come this far. A murmur of agreement spread across the bridge. Rhodes grinned. Guess you're stuck with us. Wolf stared at them, his throat tight, and finally nodded. Then we finish this together. The Dauntless charged. Plasma fire raked its hull, tearing armor away like paper. But the ship did not slow. Every weapon roared in unison, hammering the Sun Cleaver's outer shell. Explosions cascaded across the structure, conduits rupturing. Navarro shouted, The core is destabilizing. Keep pushing. Wolf commanded. The Dauntless slammed to the outer ring, grinding against alien plating. Sparks and fire erupted across its bow. Wolf gripped the rail as the ship's alarm screamed in unison. Distance to core? 200 meters. Rhodes shouted. Prepare for overload. Dre said grimly. This is going to be violent. The Dauntless forward railguns fired one last time, punching into the heart of the Sun Cleaver. A brilliant flash engulfed the viewport as the alien weapon's core went critical, energy rippling outward in blinding waves. Brace. Wolf yelled. The world became light and fury. The Dauntless shuddered as a shockwave ripped through it. But its armored frame, built for impossible punishment, held together long enough for the crew to survive. The Sun Cleaver tore itself apart, pieces scattering like shattered glass across the void. When the light faded, the Dauntless drifted amid the wreckage, its engine silent, its hull scorched beyond recognition. On the bridge, smoke hung thick, consoles sparking in protest. Status. Wolf croaked. Navarro coughed but grinned. Alive. Barely. But alive. Rhodes laughed weakly. You just rammed a moon-sized gun and lived to tell the story. I don't think they'll underestimate humans again. Wolf leaned back, exhaustion and relief washing over him. Then our job here is done. Archon Dominion, hours later. Lord Kara VYNN stood in silence, watching the fragmented remains of the Sun Cleaver drift through the void. The human ship had survived. For now, his amber eyes burned with a mixture of fury and something he would never name aloud. Fear. Back on the Dauntless. As the crew worked to restore basic systems, Wolf stood at the cracked viewport, watching the stars. They warned them, he murmured, but they didn't listen. Navarro stepped up beside him. What now? Wolf turned, his eyes steady. Now, we go home. And when they come again, they'll remember this day.